Hello and welcome to Justin Dwyer Artistry. Today we're doing a drawing of a horse, a charcoal horse with a little bit of white pastel for some highlights and to help us out with a little bit of the backlighting of the scene. So welcome, thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the drawing. Let's get cracking. In today's video we will use charcoal to draw a horse. The reference that I'm using is a royalty-free photo from Pixabay. If you want to draw this horse for yourself, you can go to pixabay.com and find it along with many other great reference photos. I'm starting out by roughly marking out the shapes. I'll put in a shape where it looks about right and then measure elements to see if it's correct. The reference photo is about 2/3 the size of the paper that I'm using, so to scale the measurements I just have to add 50% to each measurement. As always, I look for elements on the horse that are equal to or very similar in length. For example, the horse's head from the ear to the chin is very similar in length to the neck from the head to the shoulder. This allows me to work out the proportions of the horse and to make everything line up. Sometimes it takes me a few goes to get it right. We'll sketch some things in, then we'll measure and we'll check. And if something's incorrect, we'll rub it out and we'll draw it in again. We just keep working fairly lightly at the moment, and then once I'm fairly comfortable, we start to put the shading in. In this drawing I'm using a ruler to measure. Sometimes I use the pencil and the thumb method. Occasionally I use other things as well, but this time I'm just using a ruler because I have my photo right next to my drawing and it's very easy for me just to use the centimetres and the millimetres to work out the proportions. So roughly mark in some of the little buildings in the background. We're going to put some fence posts in, so we want them to recede away. We're going to draw them slightly smaller and make them recede away into the distance. We're going to put the background in a little bit. I'm drawing the rough shape of some trees. I'm not going to try and exactly draw them. We're going to make them fade backwards into the background, but we want a little bit of shape there to suggest what they are. Then smudging everything with my fingers. Everything just wants to be left in a pretty rough state at the moment. I don't want anything to be too detailed. I draw the wire of the fence in quite roughly because I don't want it to be perfect. I don't want my drawing to be exact. I'm looking for a bit more energy and a little bit more life. This is my impression of a horse. It's not a photograph of a horse. We already have a photograph of the horse. And while I certainly admire people who draw that way, it's not my art and it's not my style. This is how I like to work. So we're building up some layers of charcoal across the horse. We're simply marking out some of the areas where I can see some definition, some darkness. We're adding in is quite a light charcoal that I'm using, and it blends in quite nicely. So we have a nice thick piece of paper with a really good tooth. Now the tooth of the paper, if you don't know, is how rough the paper is. And the more rough, the more layers that the paper will be able to hold. Having a nice rough paper is great when you're working with charcoal, because then you can build up many layers and build up a great multifaceted drawing. As we continue progressing the drawing, I just keep building on those layers. I start adding in a little bit of the cobblestones under the horse's feet, tidying up the shed in the background, adding in a little bit of darkness to some areas of the sky. We'll probably pull some more out of that later, but just trying to build up, take away all of the white areas that aren't going to be left white at the very end of the drawing, just to help me see the tone. That way I can judge the values of the tones in the horse. Now we're using a kneadable eraser. So if you want to know more about kneadable erasers, watch my how to draw a baby elephant video. I have a lot more information about erasers in there. You can go and learn a few historical facts and get some more information. So keep tidying up some little areas, building up and then taking away, building up and taking away, and that's the process. I love charcoal because it's so forgiving in this way. It's great for beginners. because if you make a mistake, 99% of the time you can easily fix it up with charcoal, whereas with some other mediums it's not so forgiving, it's not so easy to fix. So we just keep balancing. I look for the areas of the light and the dark in the photo, and I just keep building up those layers, cutting out the whites and the highlights and adding in more layers of darkness. I keep using the kneadable eraser to cut details out in the horse. We can draw some of the hair of the horse's mane and tail. We can draw the hairy horse's hooves and just keep cutting out those little fine details. Then once we've removed some charcoal, then it's time to add some charcoal back in. We'll keep building on that, keep adding it in. The horse is the focal point. Therefore, we want the horse to have the strongest contrast in the drawing. That means we want the darkest darks and the lightest lights to be on the horse. And what's the focal point of the horse? Well, to my mind, it's the eye. The eye of everything is always the focal point. If it has an eye, that's where we need to look. That's what we want to be looking at. So keep the focal point around the eye by keeping the contrast there the strongest that you can possibly make it. Everything else will still have some contrast, but it won't be as strong as the focal point on the eye. Cutting a little bit of definition into the fence, so we're just making that stand out a little bit more. I don't want to make the wires straight. I don't want to make this super realistic. I like the fence to be a little bit bent and broken. I like it to have a little bit of character that reminds me of every farm I've ever been on. Straight and perfect fences don't seem to be the norm, particularly around animals like this. So we keep building up, layering in some nice dark charcoal pieces, then we can blend them in again. Look to pick out a little bit of definition now. We're moving on through the drawing. Just add little bits wherever you need to. When you're doing your drawing, I encourage you to step back. I don't show that in my videos because it'd be quite boring for you to stand there and wait for me to step back for 2 or 3 minutes every now and then. But that's exactly what I do as I do my drawings. I step back every few minutes, have a good look, and whatever jumps out at me, that's the thing I need to work on next. I'm using a white pastel now to add more contrast. It's enabling me to get a stronger white in the finished work. So a lot of these whites that I'm putting in now, that's where I'm going to leave them. I will blend some of these with the charcoal to get a more of a grey tone, but the whole purpose of putting the white in is simply to create the strongest areas of contrast. And those areas are the focal points that I really want to bring up and make people look at in the drawing. Wherever you have pure white in a drawing, that's where people's attention is going to be drawn, to the points where the pure white and the pure black collide. Charcoal is one of the oldest materials used for creating art that we know of. Cave paintings left by early humans contain markings created by charcoal, probably drawn from burnt sticks. Since those early days, charcoal has been used for many purposes. These include smelting ore, making gunpowder, treating wounds, filtering water and air, and of course drawing. Around 400 BC, Phoenician seafarers were charring the inside of their water barrels. They had discovered that the charcoal in the casks made the water taste better. This is because of a process called adsorption, which causes the particles to bind to the charcoal. The process is still used today in water and air purification. Early cave paintings contained charcoal lines and markings as well as mineral ochres, dirt, bones and animal fat. It's believed that a variety of techniques were used to apply the colours, including drawing, painting, dabbing, smearing and spitting. Implements may well have included sticks, feathers, animal hair, hollow bones, as well as fingers. Some of these early works were completed between 16,000 and 30,000 years ago. So back to the drawing. So I'm using the charcoal here just to fill in some of the darker areas again. By the way, this is a vine charcoal. It's quite a soft charcoal. It's really easy and malleable. You can see how soft it is. I'm actually erasing it with my finger. I don't even need to use the eraser. So we're just looking to darken up some of those areas, layer in the charcoal as much as possible, put in a few last minute little details that will help us finalize this drawing. We're very near the end. So I want to thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've gained something. If you liked the video, please leave me a comment below, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.